Hi everyone, number one Marmaduke fan here. So, I finally watched Batman Ninja, only a year after it came out, because I kind of, on principle, don't want to pay money to watch something I just take a look at and I think this looks like crap. And I wait to get it for free. Now, sometimes that means I finally watched the movie and I'm kicking myself. I just can't believe how good this was and I missed it for all these years. And other times, I'm like so happy at least I didn't waste my money on that. But oh, Batman Ninja is the most painful, one of the dumbest things I've ever seen, and I gotta roast it because I feel like there could be like a good point in here. I think what happened to Batman Ninja is they had the directors and the story writers had a couple potentially interesting ideas that got slammed together, and those ideas don't necessarily go together. And I think any good chef and any true and honest anime fan should be able to tell you that just because two things are wonderful, that doesn't mean that combining them together is a great idea. So first off, what is Batman Japan? Well, Batman Japan is Batman, the Batman we all know and love, gets time traveled back into the feudal era of Japan. And once he's there, he discovers that all of his enemies have become the Feudal Lords. And he is foretold by ancient prophecies to put an end to this. So when you talk about a story about Batman in Japan, those are the two key things. Batman is cool. Japan is cool. Can we put them together and make a cool story with those two things? But how you do it is much more important than just like the two, oh, these two ideas are cool. So one idea, obviously the one Batman Ninja went with, is time travel. You take the Batman from today and you send him back in time. Now, here's where I think the ideas got confused, where maybe like there were two different movies that got crammed together. The second kind of Batman in Japan story would be retelling Batman's story in ancient Japan. So it's not the modern day Batman. It's some guy with a Japanese name who speaks native Japanese, born in Japan, whose story parallels the modern Batman story. And what's fun about these kind of stories is DC has literally done a bunch of them in the Elseworlds comics, and the Elseworlds comics are fantastic. Like, I could read those over and over again. There's a really good one, actually, the Robin Annual #3 from Elseworlds that is a samurai story, and it's fantastic. Now, what's interesting is Batman's only a secondary character in Robin's story, but he feels very authentic. He feels like a cool samurai, and the characters, even though, they all conveniently happen to have costumes like the modern Batman characters, they feel like Japanese characters. So let me ask you, is the Joker a shogun type of character? Do you see the Joker ruling the world with an iron fist and making plans in his mighty fortress as a king? I don't really see the Joker as that type of character. He's kind of a chaotic character. So if you wanted to tell a Batman story in ancient Japan and actually you'd want it to actually feel like an authentic kind of samurai movie, right? So you can't just like plop, oh, all of Batman's enemies are feudal lords, because that just is boring. Two-Face is a feudal lord. Catwoman's a feudal lord. Poison Ivy's a feudal lord. Penguin's a feudal lord. Joker's a feudal lord. No. There's so many more interesting things you could do. What if you had like Joker as a crazy wandering samurai guy? Maybe take a little inspiration from Toshiro Mifune's character from Samurai 7. What if you had Poison Ivy be some kind of Tengu who lives in the forest and resents the people who are modernizing Japan and tearing down the forest, right? There are so many different options and directions you could go with these characters where you could evoke the idea of the characters and yet have them feel like they belong in ancient Japan. So I think the second dumb idea that got combined with time travel was, let's have all of Batman's enemies be feudal lords in Japan. And of course this creates like weird plot holes. Like, I could believe that Batman speaks Japanese if you teleported him back in time. A lot of his enemies, though, are just like street level, like dummies, right? Like, I do not believe that all of them speak fluent Japanese and would have like the wherewithal to not just survive in ancient Japan, but actually become lords in ancient Japan. But, maybe it's possible. Maybe it's possible to make that work. So the third kind of story would be a dumb, cheesy, just like, we know this is so stupid and we're just going to have so much fun with this stupid story. We're going to have giant robots, right? And if you wanted to go that route, then I'm totally for that too, right? I can enjoy campy, funny, silly things like Adam West style. But then again, like Adam West shows were like 30 minutes long, right? Like the patience wears out faster on a crazy, silly, over the top, everything's nuts and just like put a smile on your face and enjoy it kind of story. And they actually try to do like some cool emotional beats in Batman Ninja, but that's getting undermined because giant robots show up in ancient Japan, and I'm all for giant robots showing up in ancient Japan. But here's the thing: once the giant robots show up, everything feels small by comparison. If I've seen a giant robot fight in the first 10 minutes, why do I care about the samurai sword fight later? I've already seen giant robots. This is a basic narrative thing. You've got to build towards a big thing. I actually think it would have been brilliant if it was a totally straight samurai movie all the way through, and then in like the last 5 minutes, a giant robot shows up and the Joker did it as a joke, right? Like, I'd just be like, what? This is so ridiculous. And then by the time I was thinking about how stupid it was, they'd have defeated the giant robot and it'd be over. But no, it's like an hour of giant robots fighting. And they basically steal the spotlight from Batman. Batman's basically just an idiot this whole movie. There's a little moment where he wonders, gee, what am I a hero if you take away the 21st century technology from me? Yeah, that sounds like an interesting movie, doesn't it? But then he's just an idiot and completely like missing obvious things throughout the whole thing. And he just like sits and rides as the giant robots, and the giant 1940s Batman shows up in giant form for no explained reason whatsoever. And I can't be invested in it at all. Oh my gosh. All right. So I kind of got through it. The animation. So animation-wise, this is using CG animation, which I've seen used beautifully before. The problem is, for most of the movie, it feels like I'm watching kind of a nice PlayStation 3 cutscene. Yeah, this is kind of nice. I'm getting ready to play this video game, but it doesn't feel fluid. For like video game animated cutscenes, like it's clearly like they have the model and they move the model around. They don't draw the figure moving through space, which means the movement doesn't look fluid. And so what the animation studio does to try to fix this is they put a lot of filters on everything. So, all these cool painterly filters and all of these bright colors, and that's really nice. But if you put a million Photoshop filters on a stiff figure that's moving stiffly, the figure still looks like it's moving stiffly. And what really bugged me is there were a couple scenes where they just randomly changed the animation style 100%, like completely jarring transition. And there was one kind of like really fluid, really bizarre sequence, also kind of a brutal like Joker getting the snot beat out of him sequence that was really experimental and unusual and kind of beautiful all the way through. And then it went back to the awkward PS3 style. And then at the end they had a couple like, traditional like 2D hand-drawn animation style things at the end. There are also like a lot of beautiful effects shots, like explosions and things, and a lot of the backgrounds are kind of beautifully and elegantly illustrated. But then like these clunky 3D, PlayStation 3 video game models keep clonking through it. So if you're an animation fan, I'd say there's like about 10 minutes of cool animation in the whole movie, and the rest of the time I'm just weirded out by the awkward clunky look of it. I think a lot of CGI animation, they tend to, because CGI allows them to move the camera all over the place, that means they want to move it all over the place as much as possible. And sometimes less is more. Sometimes just showing me a simple shot so I understand everything that's going on is cool. But there are a couple like fun little, acrobatic, over-the-top anime fight scenes that were kind of fun to watch, but zero investment. Okay, here's my pitch, because here's how I think you could do it better. If you're going to teleport Batman back in time, reset him to zero. Like, don't give him the Batmobile. Don't give him Alfred in his butler outfit pouring him tea. He just shows up as a joke. Ha ha. Right? Don't give him his giant robot suit in ancient Japan. Put Batman in ancient Japan and make the theme of, is Batman a hero without his technology, the theme of the entire movie. Make him a slave. Have him show up as a slave, and the Joker is the feudal lord, and Batman has to work his way up from being a slave to being a leader of a few, humble ninja peasants, to being a lord who can take on the Joker, right? That sounds totally dope. And don't have the giant robots show up yet. You can have the Joker have the giant robot show up right at the end, but don't have Batman fighting any giant robots in his quest to become a man and live without technology, right? Because those are two competing things. You can't have Batman using fantastical 21st century technology in a story that's all about can Batman be a hero without 21st century technology. Also, trim down the number of characters. We don't need to see all of the Bat family. We don't need to see all of Batman's rogues gallery, especially in a time travel story. Like if it's a time travel story, just make it a few central characters and focus on Batman. If you're not doing a time travel story, if you're doing we're going to retell the Batman story in ancient Japan, then include some more characters, but make them different. Make them fit with some more Japanese archetypes than just. There's more in Japan than just giant robots and samurai sword fights and ninjas, right? I feel like almost the Japanese people who worked on this were forced to stereotype themselves by DC. Hey, Japanese people, you're Japanese. You like ninjas and giant robots and stuff, right? Put all that in. Okay. But again, I'm totally fine with giant robots showing up in ancient Japan. You've just got to use them narratively in a way that makes sense. The third is the campy route. If you're going to go the campy route, make it 30 minutes and make it appropriate for an 8-year-old. So I was thinking the whole time, okay, I would show this movie to an 8-year-old who is just kind of fascinated by the idea of Batman being a ninja. Like 11 years old is way too old for this movie. They're immediately going to start seeing the plot holes. They're immediately going to start thinking, do you think I'm an idiot? Do you think I'm an infant? But you can't show this to an 8-year-old either because of some of the brutal fight sequences and some of the swearing. So to be mature enough to watch this movie, your brain will have developed to the point that you can't bear to watch this movie anymore. I have zero respect for you. I don't care if you say, oh, I just like it ironically. No, I have no respect for you if you watch this movie and actually enjoy it in any capacity whatsoever. I am judging you so bad. All right, so skip this movie. Even if you're an animation buff, I just get it for free. Or just try to find the clips of the couple best scenes on YouTube. That's what... Man, I am so sad that YouTube anime clip YouTube basically got shut down in the last apocalypse, because the whole point of that is to introduce you to cool things or to watch dumb things and then pull the two fun little clips out of it. Like I watch watch the acrobatic fight sequences all day, right? Like I bring that up on YouTube, I watch it. Right, great. I watch that one cool sequence. I watch that one cool weird animated sequence where the Joker's getting the snot beaten out of him, and it's also weird and different. And I don't have to watch the whole dumb 2-hour movie just to see these two cool scenes. All right, that's it. Skip it. Anything else? The DC animated movies are okay. I've watched a chunk of them. I feel like I ought to do I've watched enough of them where I feel like I should do that Jill Apocalypse thing where I review all of them in 10 words or less. In general, I think they do a good job of introducing young people and non-comics readers to the DC characters. And I know that I learned about Red Hood through one of the DC movies. I didn't read the comics to figure out what the Red Hood storyline is. But you gotta simplify some things. You gotta simplify some things if your target audience is the normie audience who don't know a lot of Batman history. You'd have to know some Batman history to know who the heck all these Robin characters running around are. And I don't know if every 8-year-old is up to date on A Death in the Family and all of the great, Batman story arcs. So, not even worth picking up at the library as far as I'm concerned. All right, that's it. We've dragged on too long. Number one Marmaduke fan. I had a lovely break, and now I'm back to work. Love you guys. Catch you later.